The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important issues that matter. Hello and welcome to Politics with GA. The Kano State House of Assembly Investigative Committee set up to probe the series of video clips showing the state governor, Alhaji Abdullahi Ganduje, receiving bribes, has summoned the governor to appear before it on Friday. The committee also said that copies of the video clips showing the governor receiving bribes in dollars were also sent to him for perusal. A third video clip had emerged yesterday showing the governor collecting bribe in words of dollars from a contractor. Two of similar videos had before now been released by the editor-in-chief of Daily Nigerian, Mr. Jafar, where the governor was shown collecting bribes in dollars. The governor had denied the videos, saying they were doctored. Mr. Jafar had last week honored the invitation of the Kano State House of Assembly investigation into the bribery scandal, where he tendered many other video clips showing the governor collecting bribes from contractors. Nigerians are following the proceedings with rapt attention and eager to get to the root of the investigations. The People's Democratic Party has assured Nigerians that its presidential candidate, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar, has worked out a pricing template that would immediately crash the pump price of petrol in the country. Alhaji Atiku Abubakar's move, the party said, was to ameliorate the sufferings of the common man, which he said had been imposed by 3.5 years of the President Muhammadu Buhari-led All Progressive Congress administration. The main opposition party, which also won the national leader of the ruling party, Senator Bola Ahmed Tinubu, over what he called his unguarded comments about its candidate, said in a statement by its National Publicity Secretary, Mr. Kola Ologbondiyan, said with the current price of crude oil in the international market, the Buhari administration had no justification to keep the pump price of petrol at 145 naira per litre and watch Nigerians groan under the weight of high prices. The PDP alleged that for every 145 naira paid for a litre, a cabal at the presidency diverted a hidden 58 naira, which Nigerians had continued to pay since the fuel price was increased from 87 naira to presumably subsidized cost of 145 naira. The party said it had been in high-level talks with top international players in the oil and gas industry, adding that its engagements has shown that the appropriate pump price of fuel in the Nigerian market under the current subsidy regimes of the APC administration should be within the borders of 87 to 90 naira per litre. Will this be a return to full-blown subsidy? How feasible and sustainable is this promise by the PDP? These are some of the questions begging for answers. President Muhammadu Buhari played host to Mr. Olujowo Obasanjo, the son of former President Olusegun Obasanjo, at the presidential villa 2 weeks after he officially joined the president's re-election campaign team. The meeting took place late on Thursday, the 1st of November, and the former president's son pledged his commitment towards ensuring Buhari is re-elected in the 2019 presidential elections. Mr. Olujowo Obasanjo's support for President Buhari's re-election is sure not to sit well with his father, who had relentlessly criticized the current government since January 2018. Chief Olusegun Obasanjo has also publicly endorsed his former vice president, Alhaji Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party, to beat President Buhari in the 2019 presidential elections. The election is scheduled for the 16th of February 2019 and is expected to be a keenly contested election between Alhaji Atiku Abubakar and President Muhammadu Buhari. The embattled Governor Rochas Okorocha of Imo State on Thursday said since Mr. Adams Oshiomhole, the national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, came on board the party, that the party has lost 5 million voters because of anger and protest, saying he needs to be called to order. He also said Chief Bola Ahmed Tinubu, the APC national leader, is ignorant of the crisis brewing within the party. Governor Okorocha said this in the apparent reaction to Chief Tinubu's open support for Comrade Oshiomhole, despite the grievances that has characterized the recent primary elections. The Imo State governor said Tinubu may be misinformed. If he is properly informed, he would not say that Oshiomhole is doing the right thing. According to Mr. Okorocha, who doubles as chairman of the Progressives Governors Forum, the party stands a chance of losing 5 million eligible persons who should have voted for the APC in next year's general elections. The governor's visit to the presidency, where he met with President Muhammadu Buhari behind closed doors, may have been inspired by recent developments within the polity, where the National Working Committee of the party has shot out Governor Okorocha's bid to foist his son-in-law as the party's candidate on Imo State. It has been speculated that the National Working Committee may revert to the report of the Ahmed Gulak Committee, which conducted the initial primaries that produced Senator Hope Uzodinma as the party's governorship candidate for the state. Chief Bola Ahmed Tinubu on Wednesday met with President Buhari, where he maintained support for the actions of Comrade Oshiomhole and advised the aggrieved aspirants in the recent primaries to take their failure in good faith. The national chairman of the All Progressive Congress, Comrade Adams Oshiomhole, says he will not mortgage his conscience in order to keep his job. Speaking on the fallout of the APC primaries, he dismissed rumors that some governors were mobilizing to unseat him. According to him, he knows that the job is not a pensionable job, as he will leave it one day. Hence, he will do the job according to the rule and his conscience. He said out of the 23 APC governors, only 3 were not pleased with the outcome of the primaries in the state. Comrade Oshiomhole said that no one could begrudge the governors for not being happy if a particular outcome did not coincide with their expectations. He said he neither had the power to appoint nor the power to change anything, particularly when things had been done properly. According to him, the 3 governors who are unhappy with him are his friends. You know how the saying goes, a divided house cannot stand on itself. The United States President Donald Trump has suggested stone-throwing migrants might be shot by the U.S. military as he unveiled a proposal to limit the right to apply for asylum. In a speech at the White House that contained several falsehoods, the president said he's seeking to limit asylum claims only to those who applied at the legal entry points. He also claimed the move was necessary because a succession of migrant caravans, their locations still 1,000 miles from the border, was considered by some people to be an invasion. He said asylum is not a program for those living in poverty. There are billions of people in the world living at the poverty level. The United States cannot simply absorb them, said the U.S. President, Mr. Donald Trump. He said asylum is a very specific protection based on those fleeing. The migrants making their way northwards have come largely from El Salvador, Honduras, Guatemala, and all of which suffer from grinding poverty and high levels of violence. He said some had thrown stones and attacked Mexican people and troops, a reference to clashes between Mexican security forces and up to 1,500 migrants at the Guatemala-Mexico border that left 1 migrant dead. Meanwhile, even as the number of migrants attached to the original caravan continues to dwindle, a third group of around 500 migrants from El Salvador entered Guatemala last weekend. Mr. Trump said he had told the military commanders at the southern border that if migrants tried to throw rocks at them, the troops should act as though the rocks were rifles.
I hope there won't be that. But I will tell you this, anybody throwing stones, rocks, like they did to Mexico and the Mexican military, Mexican police, where they badly hurt police and soldiers of Mexico, we will consider that a firearm. Because there's not much difference when you get hit in the face with a rock, which, as you know, it was very violent a few days ago, very, very violent.
A while ago, I sat down with the presidential candidate of the Allied Congress Party of Nigeria, ACPN, Dr. Oby Ezekwesili, and we spoke about her presidential ambition and her plans for Nigeria. Why have you decided to contest for the presidency of Nigeria?
I have decided to contest for the presidency of Nigeria because it is very clear that our country needs to be rescued. As a matter of fact, I consider my declaration for presidency as being a declaration for us to mobilize ourselves as citizens to rescue our country. The country is in dire strait. We can't afford even 4 months of continuing to operate at the level that we are operating. And so it is important that we should collectively decide to change the direction of leadership of our country so that we can begin the very arduous work of building a new society.
Now, I was at your World Press Conference yesterday, and you did talk a lot about the country, and you sounded very confident about your chances of emerging as the next president of Nigeria. What gives you this confidence, judging by the fact that your political party is relatively new?
Well, that's exactly why I'm going to win this election, because I am the more or less the new kid on the block. I come with a different message of what we must do as a country. Nigerians have a strong appetite for something different. There's been cyclical pattern of failure, the entrenched kind of politics that is politics of power and power grab, power for the sake of power, while the country just descends into destabilization and economic stagnation. Look at the kind of misery and despondency that we have in the society. People are tired of the failure, and so people need something different. They need to see that there would be sacrificial leadership. That's what I represent. I embody this courage that Nigeria does not have to be trapped in mediocrity. I called it aggressive mediocrity of our political class. I think it's time for us to say goodbye to that. And my own position is that the dominant political class are running for themselves. I am the one who is running for the Nigerian people. I am the candidate of the people of Nigeria, and the people of Nigeria are more than our political class.
Now, you're a different class of politician, even though you just joined politics recently. And the way politics is done in Nigeria, they have weaponized poverty. If you look at the Human Development Index that the World Bank just released, we're on the bottom rung of basically everything. How do you plan to play this politics, or do politics by making money irrelevant? I'm not saying that, of course, you need money for logistics and to move around and all of that, but the vote buying, the gifts, the inducement, because people, the hardcore poor people, that's what they gravitate to. So
I need you to know that in 2015, there were 67 million or such registered voters for the elections. There were only 34 million of them, or about 32 million of them, that bothered to do the accreditation in preparation to vote. On the day of the election, only 28 million came out to vote. 15 million for the winner, being our current president, and 30 million voters for the president, the former president that he defeated. Now, what does that say to you? What it says to you is that voter apathy had set in so badly that more than about 40 million of the people that had the card did not bother to engage our democracy. And majority of those people would say to you that they were not interested in voting one out of what they call the lesser of two evils. So they decided not to have anything to do with our democracy. Now, the thing about that catchment of the Nigerian voters is that you mostly find them amongst the middle income, educated Nigerian class, who simply are saying it's a waste of my time to engage this democracy because the choices that I'm faced with are horrible. And this year, we already see that an additional 14 million new voters have entered the register. Now compare that number to the 28 million that engaged in the elections. So the real strategy for us is to engage with a class of and block of Nigerian voters who have simply said, this is not doable. This is not something I want to be part of. And we need to get them into that mood where they, that mode where they are thinking of the rescue of our country. This country is in a precipitous situation, and we need to rally as a people to make that happen. So the message of our own campaign is a message that says, don't expect us to give you money. We're going to show you the evidence of why you must do something different. You accepting 4,000 is basically sacrificing the future. And that future is actually already now. So, and then we are doing it in a way that we're using digital and analytical tools, and we're using data, and we're connecting to social networks. So we're not the typical, we don't want to have the entrenched, corrupted structure of existing parties. We are here determined to show that what happened in Brazil just some days ago can also happen in our country.
Now, looking at the geopolitical arrangement of Nigeria, there's a somewhat type of unwritten power shifting arrangement and zoning. Just last week, the Honorable Minister of Power, Works and Housing, Mr. Fashola, said Yorubas, appealing to ethnic primordial sentiments, that Yorubas should vote for President Buhari because they will stand a chance to produce a president in 2023. Is this a concern for you, the politics of ethnicity, and what do we need to do to shake it off?
So Nigerians who have been at the receiving end of poor governance, frankly, don't care what language the leader that would rally the society to build a vibrant and prosperous democracy, a democracy that's not just prosperous, but one that offers equality of opportunity to everyone, regardless of what zone they are from. They don't care where that person is from. The man who is living in abject poverty, out of the 87 million Nigerians that are now known to live in extreme poverty, the one who is living in such class in Kano, that is not different from the woman living in such class in Ibadan, not different from the young woman living in such class in Nnewi, and not different from the young man who is living in such class in Bayelsa. So the Nigerian people are tired of that governance. They're tired of the leadership failures. What they want is someone who can lead in a way that we can build a nation where they can see that they have a stake in it. And that's what matters. It is the political class that carry on with this artificial construct of zoning. Their zoning, how has it improved the lot of even their own people? Which of the presidents can you say, the people are screaming, oh great,
People in their hometown,
that's what I
like
mean. I am saying that. And basically, we know a particular state in the country where you have more than one person who has previously led the country. Is their lot any better than that of the rest of the country? We just have been a people unfortunate with leadership, and we must change it.
It's been 19 years of uninterrupted democratic experience, and if you go as far back as 1983, and you look at the newspapers, the pre-Shagari campaigns, it's basically the same issues: light, electricity. We haven't made much progress as a people, and there's been talks about the reason why we're not making a lot of progress is because of restructuring. Are you in support of restructuring? And what type of restructuring do you think Nigeria should do, or do you support?
It is very clear that we are in a state of structural imbalance. Even if we didn't know it before, we know it now. We know that we don't have the kind of structure that enables us to achieve high accelerated productivity and competitiveness. And so my own conversation around restructuring is going to be the one that talks about how do we have structures that enable our productivity and competitiveness to be on a higher rate of growth every time, for the Nigerian individual, for the Nigerian state, for the Nigerian business environment. So restructuring is a conversation that we must have, but we have to have it with an end in mind. And that end in mind is the restructuring that enables the economic prosperity of our country. The economic prosperity that brings in everybody. That sense that we are pursuing inclusive growth and that we are maximizing the opportunities that each person and each section of this country can contribute to the process of our economic development. Yes.
Now, you used to be former vice president of the World Bank. You've advised heads of states. You've worked at international development at the highest levels. How would you bring this wealth of experience into governance in Nigeria if you emerge president?
Well, I mean, I guess you know the answer to that already. Just by declaring that I will run for presidency, the international community is adjusting itself. They're already saying to me that they actually imagine that there would be an Oby Ezekwesili presidency in Nigeria. And so you can imagine the massive goodwill that would bring to our country. I always say to people that the resources that you require in order to build your economy, to build your society, or to solve your problems, whatever the problem may be, are not usually well understood by people. That partnership is the most critical resource that you need. You know, when you get partnership locally, and you get partnership internationally, and you get partnership across all spectrum of human life, it reduces the amount of things that you have to do by yourself. And then the next thing you need is knowledge, plenty of knowledge. Countries like Singapore, countries like India and China, who are later entrants to this process of rapid economic growth and development, are beneficiaries of knowledge that others produced. So we are going to benefit from that, because I do know that knowledge is a massive resource for development. And then finance is key for development. And, you know, for me, just knowing that space and understanding how, you know, you can mobilize resources by the quality of policies that you put on the table. I am excited about what's possible when I get elected as president of Nigeria.
Thanks for watching Politics with GA. Until next time, I'm Benga Aborowa. The political decisions people make will affect many lives. Many people see politics as the government and the laws being made. While that is true, it's way more complicated than that.
I don't know what type of procedure is this.
Some of you may be aspiring to positions of leadership in the political arena.
And I accepted full responsibility.
But the question is, why do you want to lead?
It has everything to do with you. Every law that is made will impact many. Sometimes the decisions do affect people negatively. Therefore, it's very important to note that every vote that you cast will either break or make people. Politics with GA brings you the latest political news as well as insight and analysis as we discuss the most important